Yo, you know who it is. Griddle's hot, rumors fly, but the bap's still banging. Let's go! I'm the Batman, Belfast, born and bred, flipping fried eggs while they talk on threads. They tweet that beef, but I bring real meat, bacon stacked high. Bap game elite, they chat like they know me, they don't know jack. Talking mad smoke while I'm serving a stack. Hash brown hot with the yolk.
Okay, folks, so welcome to the first episode of the Belfast Bobcast. I'm the Batman Mark, and I have with me today James Kelly. Just tell us a wee bit about yourself, James.
My name's James. I'm from a wee place called Ballywater, wee quiet village. I'm a personal trainer, and I'm very interested in what Mark has to say today.
Obviously, we're interested in what you have to say on the subject as well.
Yeah.
So, on a couple of occasions, I have been, shall we say, had run-ins with the transgender community. One whilst running a gym, and now obviously most lately. When I'd made a post about vegans here, they jumped on the back of that due to a comment in the comment section. I don't have personally an issue with any person or hate any group of people. I mean, everyone has the choice to be what they want to be. It's just I see the dangers of trans ideology, and I see it as a bigger thing than just a personal choice, because it's almost becomes like a religion. They start preaching about it. Everything has to be about their identity and the pronouns, etc. And when it comes down to it, does affirming their identity really help the situation? And the data would tend to suggest no. So to go into this podcast, we have looked up just different facts and figures. So there was a Swedish study done from 1973 to 2003, and it found that both pre and post operations, transition operations, that the patient still was 20 times more likely than the average person to commit suicide and or self-harm. So affirming the pronouns is not really helping in any way, shape or form. Obviously you clearly feel strongly enough to come on a podcast about this, so what's your views on it?
As you say, it's becoming like a religion, like a cult. I don't know if maybe that's strong, but
Well,
they seem to fight for their rights, but they don't have any rights taken off them
no.
as such.
They claim to fight for equality, but when it comes down to it, it seems they actually want special treatment, because if they want to be recognised as she or he or whatever their pronouns may be, and I, as a person who doesn't agree with their ideology, don't want to address them as that, then they jump on you like a very, very vicious attack. And whatever, that's their reaction to things,
But everybody has their right to their own opinion.
But it would appear in the inclusive crowd that is not the case.
Yeah.
And obviously not everything is all. So there is obviously reasonable transgender people out there. There's nobody's saying that whatsoever. But having a difference of opinion is not an attack. You know what I mean? Most of my friends the friendship is based on a difference of opinion. So, you can have a difference of opinion and still get along.
100%.
That's
I know transgender people. I have no issue with them.
It's like, although I have a black friend, I'm not racist, but it's
the same sort of thing though, but
it's the truth though, and you shouldn't have to justify
everybody
it.
has a right to live their own life and be happy in their own body.
Because you disagree with an ideology does not make you a transphobe or a bigot or all these other buzzwords that people like to attach to things. not just the suicide rate. I mean, let's look into how they diagnose transgenderism. So it's the diagnosis method for transgender dysphoria. So gender dysphoria is diagnosed through a patient's subjective report of distress. There are no physical tests or scans to confirm it. So, you know,
wake up one morning and decide you want to be
well,
normal.
there's no science as such based in it, and you know they will come at you with sex is different to gender, and they will say all science, but it's pseudoscience that they're going into. You know, we're talking about biology, like. You know, when their corpse is dug up in 100 years, you're not going to go, oh, this was a non-binary,
Exactly.
whatever it's going to be. This is was either a male or a female skeleton, you know. And obviously it's horrific that you feel that you're trapped in the wrong body and that you're going through these sorts of mental health struggles. But the world is not out there attacking you, and people like me are like, if you're coming at me online, I'm the world's biggest troll, so I'm going to troll you back. If you meet me in person and you need a hand, transgender, fucking homosexual, whatever, like, I'll give you a hand, but, you know, do not expect me to buy into your reality of things. You know, I'm very black and white, and to me, the world is illogical currently. You know, and it's by design. You know, all this is very much by design. You got all these people think they're being so different and so like cutting edge, and that we're the ones that are not evolving with the times. But is it evolution or is it devolution? You know, like, for a start, the nuclear family has disintegrated from the beginning of welfare, whenever they incentivize single parenthood, and then now the LGBT movement is being pushed, which obviously further will disintegrate nuclear families. You know, obviously now gay people can adopt, etc., and that's a whole other podcast in and of itself. But can people not see that we are living in times that we've intentionally been divided amongst these lines, and people like COVID, for example, showed us how compliant society is on a whole as a hive mind. You know, like during COVID times, if people had said, or if the cat came on the news and said, if you stick a finger up your arse and jump on one leg, that'll give you immunity. Like there would have been people out on a Thursday night clapping for the NHS and trying to finger their bum at the same time. You know, it's where has critical thought went? And
Everybody's just becoming cheap.
in your gym, like, have you came across any of these issues, or
Not in the gym I go to,
No?
Just I keep myself in the gym, you know what I mean?
yeah? So
But
whenever
there is probably trans people, etc., go to the gym.
my issue when I was at, like, for the whole gym thing was, you know, first and foremost, it was a small group personal training gym, so we had both male and female there. We run monthly strongman, strongwoman, whatever competitions. We called it Strong Fit, and it was male and female categories.
Yeah.
So
Right, okay. I didn't know this.
the transgender woman who wanted to join the gym, who simply asked me a question saying, I am transgender, would you have an issue with this? And I replied, well, yes, personally I would, so good luck. It resulted in me getting taken to court, which I didn't go. And they attempted to sue me for £20,000 for that, because
Because you didn't agree with her.
injury to feelings was what was in the letter. Now, if you want to take that to its furthest, once they take me to court and get their £20,000 ruling, my feelings are going to be injured. So can I then take them to court
Surely you'll be able to.
for £20,000.
Why would you not?
It's you know, it's a mad world we live in, and so the European Equality Commission took this case on behalf of this person and another person who wrote a letter, another transgender. I can't remember what it was, a man to a woman, or whichever one it was, transgender regardless, wrote me a letter trying to like make it look legal and official, and I wrote them a letter back addressing them by their proper gender, like their birth gender, and voicing them for wasting my time, and they jumped on the case with the European Equality Commission, so £10,000 a piece a month for injury to feelings. Now, I've injured people's feelings a hell of a lot more than that, like.
Yeah.
So I owe a lot more money than 20 grand. Like,
Yeah.
literally asked me a straightforward question,
Give her a straightforward answer.
and I give a straightforward answer. And then after she posted it on Facebook, or he, sorry, posted it on Facebook, I went back and said, I make sure and post that for attention, because like you just knew that's the way,
Yeah.
and that's exactly how they act. And then I was receiving death threats and, oh, you're gonna get stabbed in your business, or you'll be out of business by Monday, and you're like, right on, that's a very nice community you come from there. And like, you know, 3 years ago, you would have got away with that nonsense, but people are now wise to your bullshit, you know, and see that you just gather around like a hive and just attack and.
Almost playing the victim.
No, well,
Also,
there's a currency in
Yeah.
being a victim
Yeah,
these days, you know, like people like yourself and myself, like we actually look like we could have been separated at birth, to be fair,
yeah, a
but
lot of people say that to me.
straight white men, we are like the ultimate fucking bad guy. We have apparent privilege that I was entirely unaware of, and I've really not experienced. I was brought up in a very good family. Like I never wanted for anything, for example, but like, you know, there is racism towards white people too. It's not like it's not a one-way street.
Yeah, it's never one-sided.
And like, I've never owned slaves, you know, so why do all white people get, you know, the blame for what like maybe 2% have done in the, you know, over history, and mainly Jews, to be honest, not actually white if you look into the history. And also don't forget the white Irishman was the first slave. So I mean, really, how privileged are we? This is a very weird world we're living in. Like,
Scary world when you have children. Like I worry about what's going to happen
well, the good thing is
10, 15 years from now. What way is the world going to be? My children growing up.
you have to live with the sense that, you know, the everything's going to be okay, and treat your children that way, and
Yeah.
and sort of like safeguard them in a sense from a lot of this, and a lot of this is coming through the schools. So just like on that note, I had a look into the school system here in Northern Ireland specifically, about what the guidelines are for teachers in regards to transgenderism. So here we go. So the teachers in Northern Ireland are being told to do when it comes to the transgender pupils. According to the Education Authority's official guidelines, schools can support pupils' transition even if the parents object. That's fucked up. Let me say that again. So a child can socially transition at school without their parents' knowledge or consent. This is Northern Ireland. That is not the case in England, and it's not the case in, well, probably is the case in Scotland, to be honest, but it's definitely not the case in England. So what exactly are teachers in Northern Ireland told to do when it comes to transgender pupils? Um, Schools are advised to amend names and pronouns in internal systems, class registers, displays, even uniforms, but must retain the legal name for exams and official records. It's a halfway house of affirmation with like paperwork exceptions. So now when it comes to facilities like toilets, changing rooms and overnight trips, the guidance does not mention potential safeguarding concerns. But here's the catch. Uh, it doesn't, so sorry, it does mention potential safeguarding concerns, but it does not tell the staff how to manage these potential safeguarding concerns. So the teacher with their decision is potentially putting themselves in a compromising
Yeah.
because there's no guidelines whatsoever. Teachers are told that some children may later reverse course. That's quietly acknowledged, but nowhere is there any real emphasis on pausing or challenging the initial decision. The default is just to affirm the child's decision. Now, I know whenever I was like 3, 4, 5, like I probably wanted to be a slug or a butterfly or something fucking ridiculous. Or, you know, like you wouldn't let somebody of that age smoke. You wouldn't let somebody of that age drink. Get a tattoo. So why on earth would you like allow them to make a life changing decision like gender transition?
Yeah. And then they're giving them, I don't know whether they're doing it over here, but that time in America, you see it, like they're giving them puberty blockers and all.
So on the medication side of things, so there's 3 main companies that supply the medication. There we are. So, and they're all, so Pfizer, AbbVie, and Endo. Puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones, and these are exactly the same drugs that they use in cancer treatments, chemical castrations. So what are the long-term effects? Do you know what I mean? They're understudied for a start, and known effects include infertility, liver strain, blood clots, mood instability, and permanent sexual dysfunction. And there is a growing movement of people who want to detransition and largely are upset with how easily they were affirmed and pushed through, the transition. There's many cases. But I think the main thing to take away from the data, as opposed to your eyes feelings here, like the suicide rate, like that's where most conversations end, is death, right? So the suicide rate is in around 40% in the transgender population, and that is pre and post operation. So there's clearly mental health issues at play here beyond the change of gender or beyond the affirmation, and they need to be addressed. And we bang on in this country about mental health, but it's not clearly being addressed. Like half these people, most of these people are not really trapped in the wrong body, in my opinion, and it can be my opinion because look at the diagnosis, look how subjective the diagnosis is, so it can entirely be my opinion. Most of these people are just confused and have problems and have had maybe traumatic childhood experiences that have fractured their minds and led them to be in this situation. And trust me, there's fucking empathy here for that, but these are the problems that need to be addressed, not chopping their bits off and not giving them cancer causing fucking drugs, you know what I mean? Like, fair enough, if an adult wants to do this to themselves and they've talked to their physician and they've went through whatever. Like, go ahead, knock yourself out. But like, really, socially transitioning kids without their parents' consent, like, where are we at? Like,
As you said, there's no questions asked.
where are we at?
Yeah.
Why? Like, you have kids, so what? You send your child to school. You know that could be going on. What are they being taught? Really, we don't raise our own kids. That's a problem, and that's a situation we put into through to the cost of living and other things. But we need to take back a bit of control of our children's minds here, folks. Like, this is all indoctrination. It's not by chance that transgenderism or ideology cases have went through the fucking roof. It's not by chance that there's all these now gay people and people identifying as cats in school. Like, it's clearly coming from somewhere. There's indoctrination, there's programming going on somewhere. What are your kids watching? What are they listening to? Are you parenting your kids, or are you just sticking a wee iPad in front of them and hoping for the best?
We had to stop our kids from watching YouTube because of the stuff that was on it.
You don't know what's slipping through.
They were sitting down watching YouTube, it was going away, coming back, and there was something completely different on. But, do you know what I mean?
And a child's mind is so malleable.
Yeah.
Like,
They suck everything up.
the communists always said, if you give me 2 generations, they can change a country's trajectory, and it's true. Children are the most moldable and innocent people about. Like, and why there's not more of a push to protect them from this bullshit, which it clearly is. And take me to fucking court as you want, because look, if we're now in a place where teachers are making decisions on behalf of children, we should be wrecking the show at this point, folks. That is government overreach to like a degree that I never thought possible in my lifetime. But we're here, and it's happening, and we seem to just be letting it happen. And half the reason for me starting this podcast is there's so many things like this transgender situation that need to be discussed that people are too afraid to talk about in case they get cancelled or people will think they're a bigot or whatever. But guess what? I actually don't give a fuck. Call me whatever you want. I have compassion, and people that know me know I have compassion. And if you're ever in a situation that you need my help, you know that I have compassion. But there's a lot wrong with this world, and somebody needs to start speaking up about it, to be fair. And fair play to James for joining in, because even putting your face to a conversation like this is...
As I said to you before, I've been told by a lot of people not to do it. But why should I sit back and just say nothing? Everybody's allowed an opinion. I'm allowed to say what I want to say. If that offends somebody, that's their problem.
Well, yeah, it's offence is taken, not given, and the proof is in the pudding. So in all these situations, like whenever the transgender thing happened at the gym, whenever the scooter incident happened here, and now whenever the fucking lunatic with the wee joyrider moustache was making all the videos and all, who I actually asked to come on to the podcast, but she refused. But she was asked. Where were we? Because I completely lost myself there. So, regardless, there's a lot of things going on here that need to be discussed. So the transgender issue at the gym, the Scootergate thing here, and also with the transgender thing, currently, people support you with their money, and they do it quietly because they're afraid to put their name to it, and they'll quietly come in and go, well done for speaking up or whatever. But why doesn't more people say?
Yeah, well, I think they're just afraid to speak. I think people are just afraid to speak up because they get shut down.
What's the consequences? But a couple of angry trannies
Online.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
nobody will come to your face and say anything. That's the world we live in nowadays.
So that tranny made a video putting me in along with 3 other sex offenders, and then said, oh, and why are we talking about businesses like this? And then mentioned my business. Now, they didn't call me a sex offender, but clearly if you put me in a video along with 3 other sex offenders, people are going to draw their conclusions, and you know that is not a brush that anybody wants to be tarred with. And you know, thankfully, I'm robust enough of a person to not give a fuck about what you say. And the reason I went down to confront the guy at his work was not to punch him in the face. It was to ask him, one, why he felt the need to put me in the video, and two, let them know that sometimes there's real life consequences for online actions, and not violence, but face to face. You know, say, if you have a problem with me, say it to me, you know. Like, why do we have to be so cloak and dagger about things? Guys, obviously very, very new to all this, and thank you very much for joining us this evening. The main takeaway from this is there is no hate here. I mean, hate's a very heavy thing to carry around. There's no love either towards the community. I'm indifferent. I just feel very strongly that as an ideology, it's dangerous. It's dangerous for them. It's dangerous for children. It's dangerous in general, because they're so visceral when people don't agree with them. If you wanted equal rights, that's fine. You've already got them. But you want special treatment, and we're not giving it to you. So there you go. And we are open 5:30 to 2:30, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Visit the t-shirt shop at belfast-tees.co.uk. And James Kelly on socials. He's a personal trainer. Get at him.
Yeah, JK Coaching on Instagram.
Thank you very much, guys.
Yeah! Shout out to Belfast Breakfast Babs. Faster than the wind. Cooler than a Segway. Scooters! Are you ready?
When I was a Skinner man, I walked just like the rest.